afternoon, South Africa. Now we're having another fulfilling edition of Afternoon Express, focused on pies with me, Balisa Tembe. The dynamic chef Tjaart is back in studio for a cook-along, where we'll be making hot, sweet chili pilchard pies, flavorful curried mince pies, and we're ending it off on a sweet note as we make a classic apple pie with a lattice design. Hey, Domi in the kitchen. Mwah.
Hey, Pale, you are looking exquisite today, looking very beautiful, and I must say we're matching today. But I just want to mention all those recipes that you talked about. Did you know that you can get those on afternoonexpress.co.za? So make sure you go to that website and get all those recipe details. But for now, Palisa, back to you in the lounge with Tjaart.
Absolutely, Domi. Twinning is winning this Thursday. Now, you're right, Chef Tjaart is back and he returns to tell us all about his latest cookbook, Summer Food. And he's going to be showing us more tips and tricks about all things pastry. Please help me welcome back a man of many travels, Chef Tjaart. Welcome back.
Thanks for having me back. Great to be back in the studio.
Your energy is just so infectious, and I think that it's your mind as well when it comes to all things baked goods that has you coming back for more.
Well, absolutely. Who cannot be sad and doom and gloom with food? I mean, food is just something that makes you happy. It's a feel-good factor when we, in great moods. Even when you're down in the dumps, let's face it, we still eat food. So regardless, food is the soul, it's the being, as what gives us life at the end of the day. So got to be happy.
We brought you back with your incredible new cookbook, Summer Food. Now, during COVID-19 and the lockdown, we saw a huge boom in cookbooks. Everyone was releasing a cookbook, but you also decided to do your very own, but focused on summer food. Can you just tell us about that process?
Yeah, well, so Summer Food is literally about sort of, just sharing food and ideas, but those tips and tricks that we all talk about, so it's great to come back. And that's what I love doing, is sharing with our audience, your Afternoon Express audience, of what is out there and what we can actually achieve at home. Demystifying all those sort of bits and pieces that you think, no, it's really difficult. And, we're talking pastries today, and that's what it's about. It's not that difficult. And if you understand the fundamentals, I tell you, you can go on many travels like I've been on, but many travels in your own kitchen and create fabulous dishes, not only for your friends and family, but the extended family as well, of course.
You have had the opportunity to feed so many different types of people all across the world. You have spoken about your travels. So what are some of the main places that you want to kind of shout out right now that you've been able to visit?
Well, I mean, a lot that takes me back is predominantly Europe, part of the Scandinavian country. I mean, Sweden, I've spent a lot of time in the recent years, pre-COVID, of course, and, their food is it's actually quite simple. And, we break our food down here in South Africa. It's actually quite simple. Celebrate and hero the ingredients. On Tuesday, we're talking about Karoo lamb. Talk about that. When in Sweden, you're talking about all their wonderful shellfish and the fish that they've got as well, all sustainably caught. That's what we want to sort of really celebrate and, put together in something so simple. So when it came to my book, Summer Food, it was all part of those little nuances that I learned in Sweden and Switzerland and France, Italy, the UK, and then obviously taking all my sort of bits of learning in Africa as well. I've been very fortunate to travel, growing up in Zimbabwe, been down here, I've done Mozambique, done to Zambia, Kenya, Tanzania, and all those fusion of flavors. So it's taking a compilation of all those different recipes and ideas and bits of inspiration and applying them into my book. And that's what I created probably nearly 2 years ago, but it's still out on the shelves that you can get from all good bookstores. You can get online. If you get online, you can get it directly from me myself, and I'll, sign it away. And, so yeah, it's just sharing wonderful tips and tricks at the end of the day, and food that you can all cook at home. So this really is a book about you being able to, anybody can pick it up, whatever food level you are, novice, intermediate, whatever. It's a great book for everybody.
Now, Chef, at the end of the day, it is winter. You can see I'm wrapped up in this jersey. It is cold.
Oh, you've got the jacket on today as well.
Okay, and this is a summer food cookbook.
Yeah.
How important is the summer food lifestyle, and how then can we incorporate it in our winter dining?
Well, great question, because that's what's so important is when you start to celebrate in summer, you want to be able to adapt the same recipe. Yeah. We all eat. We are creatures of habit. What you ate, or bought last week, actually, in the shops, you probably bought the week before that, the week before that, and so on and so forth. So you're using the same ingredients all the time. And all you need to do is adapt those recipes. So taking your summer food recipes, your favorite recipes, and just adapt them very slightly. So maybe like a pie, for instance. You don't necessarily have to serve it cold. You can actually serve it warm in the winter. Add a gravy to it. Add a vegetable bake. There's so many more things you can take and you can just tweak very lightly, but at the same time as well, take some of those lovely hearty recipes that you can just serve in the winter. We have, beautiful warm homes, hopefully, with a bit of a fireplace going in and things like that. So those little bits and pieces are absolutely key that you need to just take, adapt tweak, and it can be throughout the year. So maybe it should be a year of food and celebration as opposed to just, summer food.
Now, summer food takes you back to that summer lifestyle recipes and proves that enjoying summer on a plate has never been easier. Now, this is a must-have, and you could win yourself a copy of Chef Tjaart's book if you are inspired. All you have to do is answer this question. If it was a hot summer's day, what would your go-to dish be? Please share your answer with us on our Afternoon Express Facebook page. T's and C's can be found on afternoonexpress.co.za.
If I'm correct, Tjaart is here to cook, Balisa, so you guys better come into this kitchen and let's get ready to make these recipes. I mean, we've spoken about one giveaway. Now we're going into another giveaway, and we've got this hamper over here that is worth 1,000 Rand, and we will be telling you towards the end of the segment exactly how to enter to get your hands on it. But Balisa, let's get into this cooking, right?
Absolutely. Now, Tjaart's jacket is off and he's putting his apron on, and that's where you enter this chat, Mzansi. Now, looking for something to delight and feed the whole family? Well, then look no further, because Lucky Star has got you covered with some delicious and mouth-watering hot sweet chili Pilchard's pies.
Sometimes things about convenience is actually what we want. It's already got all the spices, it's all got all the seasoning in it, so why not use something like that to put into your pie, onto your wonderful pastries that you've actually, made up and knocked up. Now, that's all the real love is there, and now you've got love and some filling that's quick, convenient. Some shortcuts are always good.
I love it. Dumi, what do we need for this?
All right, so I'm going to be making the filling, Balisa, and to go into our filling, we've got our Lucky Star Pilchards in sweet chili sauce to add that added sweetness to our recipe, and some mayo. And I know, just like everyone knows, I feel like Pilchards and mayo are a match made in heaven, Balisa. And you're going to be making the sauce to go along with this amazing pie. And you've got some of our Lucky Star chakalaka, the spicy version. We've got some mayo, we've got some egg, we've got, in fact, the egg is just to brush over, sorry, and we've got some beautiful flavorings just to go into that. So you're going to make that sauce for us. I make the filling. Tjaart's going to make the pie casing for us, and we just get this recipe going.
Love it. Chef, you've got your pastry. Let's go.
Absolutely. So I'm using puff pastry for this here. So remember I was talking about puff pastry the other day? It's dough, butter, dough, butter, dough, butter. So one of sort of flaky layers. Again, if you haven't got that, you can just use a little short crust pastry. You can chop and change, so you don't have to specifically use your, puff pastry. So I'm just going to take mine out here, unravel it, and then just dust the surface with a little bit of flour. Not too much flour, but just enough just to sort of get everything sort of loosened up. A little bit on the top there, and then onto your rolling pin. Then on the length of that, just roll that out. And then just to sort of save things, we're going to be using two cutters, a bigger cutter for the actual base of the muffin tin, and then a smaller one for the top, or for the lid, as we term it there. And then you just work it out. Can you get two within that sheet like that? Yes, you can quite comfortably. So just roll it out if you need to, if you want to get another one as well. So you don't want to waste two things too much like that. But all those little bits of offcuts just now, you can roll those up and reuse them for something else as well.
Beautiful. Chef, I can see that we've also decided to go on a bit of a dinner party type of, when you serving your meal. We've got individual little muffin tins, and that's what's going to be creating the mold of our puff pastry and our pie at the end of the day.
Correct. Yeah, so what I'm doing is cutting the bigger one, and what we're going to do is just going to be placing that into your muffin tin. Push it down in the center. Really important. Get in the center first, and then work it out to the outside. Why? Because I want to get rid of any air that is trapped. So I don't want any air between the pastry and the actual baking tin itself. It's obviously going to sort of nip together and come sort of bulge a little bit, but just using your finger, that's the beauty about pastry, just push it together so you got an even layer. So you want an even thickness all the way round. So just using your finger, just keep working that all around very gently. I'm going to nip this up here. Make sure it protrudes above the actual baking tray, because we're going to put a disc on. You actually want it to seal. Really important with a seal it. Absolutely. Very important with that there. And I'm just going to repeat the process.
So I'm just making sure I'm mixing this all up. And the other thing I love about this filling that I'm making here, Palisa, is that yes, it works perfectly in this pie. But if you want to have a beautiful sandwich, you can literally have this, pour some cheese on it, put it into the oven, bake it up, get that nicely melted, delicious, good, like it's basically, it's good for you, it's delicious, it's tasty. You can fill anything with this mixture.
Remember something with puff pastry, it really sort of puffs up. Take a fork and just prick the bottom of your little pastry bases here. Again, that's going to stop the layers really pushing and forcing any filling out. And if you've got any little, little pockets or little airs that you haven't sealed properly. You don't want that beautiful, gorgeous filling oozing out.
Let's do 2 with the Lucky Star Pilchards, and I'm going to add the chocolate to the other 2. Or do you want to mix it all?
The thing is, that's going to be served on the side. We put our sauce on the side because you want that beautiful, tangy Pilchards flavor on the center, and you want that lovely, because the chakalaka tends to be a little on the sweeter side.
Okay.
So you want to basically have the texture of the pie and the sweetness of the chakalaka on the top. But if you'd like to, girl, I mean, we can always change it up. Add some chakalaka in here, why not?
So essentially, good for the main, good for the side. We are using our Lucky Star for all the above. We're using it to enjoy our delicious pies, but also we're using it as a yummy side. I can see the way you have styled it there, Dumi. Absolutely beautiful.
Correct, Melissa. So what I want to show you as well, Pali, I'm going to take one of these pies so you understand exactly why we've made it as a side. So I'm breaking it up here. Oh, look at that flakiness of the puff pastry falling apart. And look at how beautiful that mixture is, because it gets to cook nicely on the center. It gets a nice deepened brown color, and that means that it also enhances the flavor of the pie. So I'm going to dig into this while you guys finish up on that.
Yep. Isn't this something perfect that you can make for a little shoki? Quick, easy. It's bite-sized, so he won't be overwhelmed with the pie, but also something nutritious. I mean, fish is brain food.
Definitely, Palisa, and it fits perfectly into this kaftin, so you can make these ahead and then put them in the fridge and then warm, bake them as you need them.
Chef Tjaart, would this be okay to freeze?
Absolutely. This is a great stage. So make a batch. I'm always telling people, everyone out there, make a batch. Don't make just like 2 or 6. Make 24 and then take them, pop them into the freezer at this stage, or you can bake them and freeze them as well. And then, you know, you get that moment like, oh my goodness, the kid misbehaved all day, you know, I'm exhausted, or, you know, the dog got run over, or whatever happens, and, you know, all that, there's drama in life. Then you just go to your freezer, take it out, and pop it into the oven, and off you go. So those kind of things are really important. Now, just quickly, the actual sealing here is I'm starting at one end. So, like, think of it as a clock: 12 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 9 o'clock. Start at your 6 o'clock point, work your way through to 9 o'clock, then across to 3 o'clock. What I'm trying to do is get rid of all the air, and then from 3 to 2, 9 to 10, 2 to 1, 10 to 11, and then 12 o'clock, and there's no trapped air inside, because again, that is going to cause a little burst to the pocket, and our beautiful filling is going to be oozing out the side there. And all you need to do now is one last little hole in the center, just to release any extra steam in the center there, and there we go. It's that simple.
And Chef, you did promise that all these gorgeous offcuts, I mean, there's still so much more you can do with all of this. There's still so much more pastry here.
Absolutely, but I take this, screw it up in a ball, screw it up. Screw up into the ball, there's a pastry ball. Now, I know you started to lose all your beautiful layers.
Yes.
But again, you can reuse that as well. Put it into a patty, wrap it in cling film, in the fridge, allow it to rest for 20 minutes, and then roll it out. Actually, in my cookbook, I've got this beautiful recipe where you roll it out and you sprinkle some hard cheese over it. And then you just roll it in, and then you cut it into long strips, and you make these basically like sort of breadsticks. And you're using your leftover pastry.
I love
and imagine that on the side with a beautiful soup. You know, you're talking about, you know, it's winter, something really hearty, but you now use it up. Most people, 9 times out of 10, take that, and where does it go?
Into the bin.
Yeah.
Exactly. With this, you can make beautiful, you can put some paprika, some beautiful herbs. You can really chop and change on things. I mean, imagine taking these beautiful breadsticks.
Exactly.
Wow, and dipping it in and just
dipping that in.
Enjoying as you go.
Absolutely, something so quick, simple, and easy.
Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. You can try this at home. Please do head over to afternoonexpress.co.za, where our chef Tjaart and Udomi has beautifully laid out all the details, tips, and tricks as to how to put together these delicious hot, sweet chili Pilchard's pies. We are giving away a 1,000 Rand Lucky Star hamper filled with lots of delicious Lucky Star goodies. All you have to do is hop over to our Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram competition posts and tell us what dish you would prepare with a tin of Lucky Star Pilchards in sweet chili sauce. Remember to include the hashtag LuckyStarSA. Competition closes at noon on Monday, the 28th of June. T's and C's can be found on afternoonexpress.co.za. Now, social media. Are you ready for our social media question?
Let's go for it. Absolutely.
Okay, now this actually is where you enter the chat as well, because you've written a book, so we kind of drew some inspiration and we've posed that to our viewers. On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being takeout all day, every day, and 10 being I should write my own recipe book. How much of a foodie are you? Use that hashtag Afternoon Express in all of your comments. Now, Dumi, when we come back, what are we making?
Vanessa, we're still sticking to the pie theme, and we're going to be making some curry mince pies. Imagine the lovely flavors of curry all wrapped up into a beautiful pastry.
All of that when we return.
Express. Join Olive Pride Chef's Tour and travel the country as we cook along with Luyanda Mafanya, Ruben Riffel and Young Bry every Tuesday on Afternoon Express. Win 1 of 10 cooking appliances weekly or a grand prize of a kitchen makeover worth 150,000 Rand. To enter, buy any Olive Pride pack and dial star 120 star 2462 star with your unique code to enter. Prepare to be proud.
Welcome back to the show. Now, whether it's sweet or savory, pies always encase bucket loads of flavor that will have you feeling warm and fuzzy on the inside. And because of that, we had to make sure that we share our set of pie recipes to keep you nice and warm this winter. Now, Dumi, this seems perfect, it seems delicious, but it also seems like something everyone can try.
That's the thing, Palesa. We're always about making recipes that are simple, recipes that people aspire to, but that are achievable. You know, you don't want a recipe that people look like, I could never get that, I could never get that right. So we're keeping it simple. We're just packing loads of flavor.
And Chef Tjaart, another thing about you is that you took something that is a staple in South Africa, which is a curried mince, and now you've added your own speciality, which is that pastry. So what do we need for this?
So pastry, we're actually making a hot water crust pastry. Now, everyone sort of thinks, this is like sort of, pastry and heat is like sort of enemies, but actually in this instance, it's actually our friend. So what we're going to do is literally just sift some flour. So just pop that straight into our sieve and then just sieve that, because what we're going to do is aerate it, open up all the globules. Remember, this time of year, it's quite wet. Yeah. So actually the flour can actually stick a little bit more. So very important just to take that off, and, you know, any little bits and pieces like that, you want to actually remove.
You discard.
So that's the actual flour. Now, hot water, all right, of which we're going to be adding our fat into. Now, why are we doing that? Well, this is great pastry. Hot water crust pastry is great for handmade pastries. So if you think of like pork pies, which are very traditional, you generally use a hot water crust pastry. So what happens by adding the heat to the flour, it sort of, in essence, technically just denses it up. All right, so it makes it a lot more thicker in terms of structure. It holds its structure a lot better. If you think of like a short crust pastry, we do a cold method of binding, and that cold method makes it lovely and flaky and soft and breaks. Where this holds itself, it's great for sort of shaping into your own homemade pie. But we're obviously going to use our muffin tin to give us that actual structure.
Very interesting that you say that, because even last Tuesday, when we were creating our different pastries, I remember at the top of the show, my hands were hot. So the pastry kept sticking on my hands. It made a mess. But here is where you do want to use that heat to create that delicious puff pastry dough.
Absolutely. So again, we are going to get a much stickier dough.
Okay, Chef, you were also speaking about what goes inside. So, Dumi, we're creating the inside as you continue with your hot crust pastry.
I was just going to say, Palesa, that a pie is not a pie without the filling, right? So to make this curry mince pie, we've got some mince that we've got over here, some peas, onions, ginger. We've got some curry powder. We've got some garam masala, ginger, salt, pepper. We've got an array of spices. So if you want to change it up and not make it curry, you can actually change it and use different types of spices. But we're sticking to traditions here and making sure we keep it as South African as possible. And we are using an oil that I think is a staple you should have in your house. You should never be without EXCELLA oil, because like you said, Chef, we want to enhance the flavors of whatever you're cooking. So the one thing I love about EXCELLA is that it's a light, clear oil that doesn't, like, it basically enhances the flavor of whatever it is that you're cooking. It doesn't overshadow it. It doesn't have, it's odorless.
I'm just going to start pouring my melted butter and water mixture into my flour. So just going to carefully pour that in. And again, remember, as I mentioned on Tuesday, if you remembered, I'm not going to add in all the liquid. Keep a little bit behind, and you can always add a little bit in there. Now, obviously, don't go and get your paws stuck in here now, because it's hot.
No.
All right, so anyway, we're just going to start bringing that together with a spoon, and then we'll be able to form our lovely pastry ball. How are you doing there with the peeling?
Easy peasy. Listen, I'm a potato type of girl, and I'm going to be using my potatoes to go into that filling that Udumi is making.
Great.
Because a lot of people do love that hearty potato within a minced curry. So I'm doing that, keeping it pretty traditional here. Super simple. I mean, there's nothing much to it. I've peeled my potatoes, and now I'm just chopping them up.
And the one thing I love about this recipe as well, Palis, is that most cases when people make stews and stuff like that, you want the potato to hold its shape and to be full and so forth. In this instance, we actually want to mash the potatoes into the curry mince, because you want to make sure that it holds its shape. So we're going to cook it down, and we're going to let it cool down, because like we said on Tuesday, when you're working with pastries, you never put in a hot mixture or filling into the pastry. Do you want to tell us why, Chef?
Well, I mean, again, what's going to happen when something's hot? I mean, if you look at this batter, or the pastry, should I say, you can see that it just sort of goes too much. Remember this butter. Butter, when it's nice and cold, it's firm, it holds itself. You make it sort of soft, and it just sort of, exactly. So you can imagine putting your filling into there, everything's just going to sort of shrivel down, and you're not going to have, you're going to have your pastry sitting at the bottom, which is going to end up being soggy because it's taken all the moisture and so on and so forth. So what you want to do is let this firm up and cool it down, and then you end up with this as your pastry.
That is so dense.
Right.
Now I see exactly what you mean when it comes to that.
Feel that.
Wow, yeah.
You're a different. You can even have a look at it as well. You can see that sort of that density as a whole. And again, all we need to do now is rolling this out as well. So let's have a bit of a sprinkle on the surface.
It's very interesting also, Chef, just going back to the fact that we are using EXCELLA oil in everything that we're making today within this segment. Dumi, the EXCELLA oil, at the end of the day, for me today we're using it to fry up our ingredients, but you can also use it for baking. You can use it for so many different recipes. It's very, very versatile in the kitchen. So much more that you can try with the EXCELLA oil. And I also just want to highlight the point that Dumi made earlier, the fact that EXCELLA the oil has that neutral taste. Then it ends up enhancing the flavors of the food that you're using, meaning that you get the best quality for your family. Food is just better together with EXCELLA.
In here, I've got my onions. I grated some ginger into there, some garlic. And into this, I'm going to go straight with our mince. And then, Pale, you can help me and pass over those potatoes because, like we said, we want them to be mashable. So we're putting them in at the beginning. Most times, you'd want to put it at the end because you want them to hold their shape. Here, I'm putting them in at the beginning so they cook down. And then they'll be nice and mashable towards the end. And as you can notice, I'm also putting a little bit of that liquid just to help steam up those potatoes. And that's it, Pale. So once I've added these, I'll go in with my carrots, my spices, let everything sit down and mellow down with that stock. And that's about it. We're going to fill those pies that Chef Tjaart is making for us.
Yeah, back to the pastry station. Chef, how far?
So, you've seen I've rolled it out there. What's really important is every now and again, just pick it up. And just, you might need to add a little bit of flour underneath. Okay, and then just work that out. And you can actually see, this just molds so well. Look at my fingers.
Easy.
It's so easy, it's very pliable. And that's the beauty of a hot water crust. Now, as you're rolling it, we are stretching it. Exactly.
I'm like, this started off so small, but it's so big now.
But be careful that you don't, roll it. Then when you come to cut it, it goes whoop.
Yeah.
Yeah, so very important that you actually keep freeing it from the actual surface. I mean, that's what's beautiful about a hot water crust pastry is it's so much more pliable at the end of the day. So I've rolled that out now. And again, we need to go back to cutting and lining our little muffin tin. So taking a larger cutter that's going to fill that there. So let's just do, what do we do? Let's do 4 of those again as well.
Yeah, creating that mold.
Creating that mold. So we're going to take one. And again, remember, placing that in to here, working your way to the outside.
And so the last thing to go in here, so Pale, is just the peas. We're going to let this cook down. You guys are showing us exactly how to fill it. So that's that mixture that's been cooked, cooled. The potatoes have been mashed, the peas have been added, and now you're just filling it up and looking all snazzy over there.
Now, Chef, is it okay for me to completely fill up my pie or must I leave some room?
Okay, so what I want to do is actually get it filled up. What you can do is actually what happens, remember, there's always going to be a little bit of expansion there. And actually, like a traditional pork pie, afterwards, you actually go and pour like the gelatine mixture on the inside. Now, if you really want to do that and take that to a whole different level, but I'm also going to help with a little bit of steam, is taking a teeny tiny little cutter and then just insert into the center.
So that when that steam comes out, it comes out of that air pocket.
It comes out of that air pocket, but also this then leaves you with a little pocket where you can pour some filling into. So whilst you're doing that, I'm going to take this here, and I'm just going to use my finger.
It's also just an egg wash.
Fingers are a great tool as well. If you haven't got a pastry brush, use your finger. Okay. Yeah, a clean one, please.
Yeah.
No one that's been scratching and adjusting your mask 20 times. And that's going on to there. So you're doing a great job. We're going to take our little disc. I'm going to place it on top. Remember, starting at one point, working round again, working all around there, so it's lovely and sealed as we go.
Now, wasn't that just a mouth-watering dish? I hope that you haven't been too preoccupied to follow this easy steps. And just in case you were, all you need to do to get the recipe and ingredients list, just head over to our Afternoon Express website, afternoonexpress.co.za, to get all the details. Now, we have 2 savory dishes that we've done to perfection. It's smelling amazing in the kitchen. I am already hungry, but we're not done. We still have 2 more recipes.
We definitely do, and we're keeping it sweet. And we're making it very healthy in a sense because we're using fruits.
So, Chef, what can we expect?
Well, just start thinking nice fruits.
Okay.
You got pears and apples, those sort of combinations coming through. So that's what we're going to be going into different types of pastry now. So we're going to start looking at our phyllo as well.
Oh, okay. Well, I am ready, and I hope that you are too. We'll be showing you how to make those delicious sweet pies when we return. Now, who is ready for dessert? Say aye.
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 Okay, now let's get cooking. Now, in a world full of trends, sometimes only the classics will do. Have you ever attempted to make a classic apple pie with a beautiful lattice pattern? Well, join our cook-along today as Chef Tjaart takes us through the steps, and we'll be serving it with the timeless taste of classic custard.
Yep.
Chef Dumi, I just want you to just open up, show us what we're about to indulge in.
Basically, Palisa, this is what we're all about. This is what we're trying to make. This beauty over here of an apple pie with a lattice pattern on the top. It's not complete because it needs some Clover classic custard on top of it. And Bale, this is it here. This is all you need, all the dessert you'll ever need in your life in one plate.
Now, what I also love about Clover Classic Custard, Chef Tjaart, is that Clover Classic Custard is so versatile to use, and it is so delicious as well on its own. But today we're pairing it with this apple pie that we've spoken about. So what are the steps that we need?
So we've lined our pastry case here that we've got. So that's going to be our base. And then Tumi is making a wonderful filling to go in here with apples. So you can imagine all those wonderful flavors. We're not going to blind bake this at all because we need to make sure the lattice sticks on top.
Now, when we do speak about lattice, I had to say lattice, lactis. What exactly are we referring to?
So lattice is where it is basically an open weave or an open plait, in essence, as a whole surface. Where you think of things like start talking about like a basket weave, that's when it's very tight, close together, all right? But people just generally talk about sort of an open or closed lattice. Now, we're going to go through and I'll show you at what stage you can make it a lot wider or a lot closer. Now, Tumi's going to be putting in raw apple here. So we're actually wanting to have open pockets between the lattice so the steam can actually escape, which is very important.
So essentially what we're talking about is just that crisscross weave design, but not one that is completely closed and locked, one that is a little bit open, so we're able to still see that beautiful filling on the inside. Now, I've never tried to make lattice.
All right, well, you want to see that wonderful bit of filling, and you want to sort of see little pockets, and it sort of oozes into the pastry very slightly. So taking our puff pastry, and we're going to just dust some flour, and then roll it out just ever so slightly so we don't get a complete big rise with it either. And what you want to do is make sure it is wider or longer than your actual base. Very important. Now, what I've got is a bottom of a baking tray. You could use a plate. You could use a square baking tray. It doesn't have to be round, but I'm just going to make it for ease. Similar sort of size, so I can do the lattice on top here, because I've got a multi-million-dollar tip for you just to help you along.
How?
So what we're going to do now is we're going to take a pizza roller and just cut strips. So this is going to be our little pieces to create our wonderful weave as we go. So again, working, as I said earlier on, like a conveyor belt, doing all the strips now.
So I suppose, Chef, if you don't have a pizza cutter, you can just use a knife?
Just use a knife, absolutely. So what we need to do is number all of them. So you've got to imagine everything in your mind there. So we've got strip 1, strip 2, strip 3, strip 4, and we'll probably get a 5th strip on the side. Okay, like that. Okay. So you can just sort of work this out here. All right, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, now we need to start making sure we know which are odd and our even numbers, right? Okay, so we're going to be taking let's start with our odd numbers. Number 1, number 3, and number 5 be peeled back.
Okay.
All right? Then we're going to take a strip and we're going to do our sort of horizontal ones to us, and we're going to place that down like that onto our edge of our baking dish.
So
correct?
Essentially that baking dish is just acting as the top of the pie.
Correct. You can do it on the top of the pie here, but what happens, it becomes very sticky. With all your filling, and you've got moisture, and if it gets too hot, and I'm going to come to that just now if it does get too hot. So you're going to start then peeling this back, all right? And now you're going to go and do your odd numbers. So 2, you're going to pull right the way back, and 4 all the way back.
Okay.
And then you're going to take your next piece to go your horizontal, and this will be gauged as what you sort of how big or wide you want your lattice to be. Then you're going to pop those pieces back, so 2 goes back, 4 goes back, and now you can see them going like this and starting to go like that. All right? Then back to, what were we doing now?
Odds.
Odds. So back with 1,
3, 5.
Okay. Horizontal piece going across. Make sure it's the same equidistance across there, and then you're going to fold that
1, 3,
back.
and 5.
Right, and then we're going to the next one. Back to
Evens.
2 and 4.
Okay, so essentially this is not a mathematical lesson. This is a cooking masterclass, and it is a cook-along. This is essentially just to create beautiful patterns when it comes to your pies. We have created our savory, now we are creating our sweets, and this is essentially what makes it a little different, makes it a little bit more special.
Absolutely. I mean, all this love that goes into it. I mean, you got all this love of spices all being fused together, and then, I mean, this is the artistry. Now then, you've got to remember what we're going to go back to is 1, 3, and 5 for our last little strip. And pop that back on, and then taking that and going across. Now, if you were to do this on your pie, it could end up being a little bit sticky and could be a bit wet and stuff. But now this here, if this is hot in your kitchen or it's all getting sticky and out of control, take this and pop it into the freezer.
Okay.
Freeze it so it's really firm.
Yeah.
And then actually what you can do, it actually just slides off so much easier.
I think I would do
All right.
that, because knowing me, the one person to mess up in the kitchen, it would be me. So I would definitely use that tip. I would use that trick. Pop it into the freezer, let it firm up, so then by the time you need to put it on top of your pie, it's easy. You just slide it all the way out. But now you are making sure that that round shape is also there.
Yeah, so what happens, you're going to see I'm going to start picking this up just now, and I don't want to sort of have too many sort of stragglers. So just, again, clean up as I go. So I've got my sort of, in essence, the shape that's ready to go there. And Tumi, how are we busy with our filling? What have we got in there and what's happening?
Yeah, so we've got the apples here, and I just wanted to also show a trick if you want to get the core out. If you don't have a corer for your apples or your pears, this is what you can do. Peel the outside and then gauge with the center over there, and then you can actually cut the edges out. This way you make sure you are getting rid of the core, but you've still got the rest of your apple and you're not wasting any apple pieces there. And then you can do with the rest of the apple however you want, you know, however you want to cut it up, however you want to slice it up. We can keep keeping it nice and chunky here. And into those apples that you're going to give me as well, Palisa, we've got some spices, some nutmeg, cinnamon, we've got vanilla essence, flour, and some brown sugar. And like previously, people would want to bake the filling. We're not baking it because it's going to get baked nicely with the rest of the pie in the oven, right, Chef?
You know, there are recipes that say, you know, cook the apples or cook them half, because you're going to put them back into here and you're going to need to cook them, you know, that much more. So you're going to end up with like a big mushy mess. You still want that structure. You still want that bite from the apple. Yeah. So you don't want to overcook your apples. All right, so now what we're going to do is take our pastry brush and egg wash all around the outside of the pastry. Okay, so just keep brushing that as you go. All right, so really be liberal with this here, because this is the glue that's going to hold the lattice on and keep it together. Okay. All right, so there we go, very gently with that. And now the moment. Are you ready?
I'm stressed.
Oh, my goodness.
I don't know. Okay, how about I help you? Can I hold the mold, and then I don't know if you can try...
Well, we can try and do it together. We can work there. So, well, I suppose that is one way that you can actually go and do it.
I'll just put it upside down and hope for the best.
Is that the way you want to do it?
No, I don't know.
So, basically what you do, if that's frozen, it's great because it can just sort of slide straight onto there, and then you can manipulate it on like that there. Or what you can do in here is you're just going to start pushing it on like that. So you're going to work on that half there. Okay, and then as we go, we're going to just sort of shake it ever so slightly if it's going to come away. Was it stuck? Should be there.
But then I suppose here's where your little tin...
Let's just do what you said. Do you know what? I'm going to listen to you today. Do you know that?
Flip it around.
Because I'm confident enough to do the flipping over there.
One.
All right, you ready?
Yeah, let's go.
Okay. Oh, that's going to go there.
Tumi, are you ready?
Okay, so we're just going to go straight onto like that.
Boom.
Danzo for Dazo.
That picks up like that there.
Talk about Instagram ready, Pali.
Yeah.
It's super simple. Then you just straighten out your little pieces here as Chef is doing. I mean, I love this.
There you go.
It worked.
Oh, you were like very nervous thinking, oh no, don't go down this road, don't go down this road.
I started sweating.
And then just take in your, your knife or whatever, and you can just basically trim that excess just to neaten everything up as you go around the outside. Okay. But just making sure you've actually nipped it in. It's really important to hold it together, because remember, it is puff pastry and you don't want to sort of run away either. So just going around there very carefully, just nipping that. And a bit of teamwork also does help as well. Yeah. Clearing that up. And then if you want that extra little bit of golden color, taking your egg wash for one final little brush up and down the lattice like this. Remember, this will also prevent it very slightly from puffing up too much as well. But again, so you don't want this to completely cover your base there. And that's what you got left.
Chef, I want you to hand the spoon over to Dumi. I want Dumi just to dive in. We've got our pie, the apple pie with...
Look, it's organised.
With the Clover Classic custard. Dumi, add more custard. Add more custard. Come on.
Come on, add some more custard. There we go. Absolutely.
There we go, Palisa. More custard.
And let us know, essentially, how that pairing is right now. The apple, the sweetness of the apple, that cinnamon, the sugar, and our classic Clover custard.
Exactly, Palisa. It is not complete without the custard because it brings that creaminess to this dish that's so nice and fruity, and those spices just take it to a whole other level.
Well, whilst you're enjoying another one of those bakes that will never go out of style, for young or old, to get this recipe, head over to afternoonexpress.co.za.
So, we've had classic fashion from Timby, classic cars, thanks Chad, and we've seen classic hairstyles. And you, Michael? Classic.
A classic range from Clover. Timeless taste.
Made with love by Clover.
Dumi, I think at this stage I'm a master egg poacher, but now you're going to be teaching me how to poach some pears.
Yes, Palisa. We're keeping it still on the fruity side. We've made some apple pie. Now we're going to be making some poached pears in some phyllo pastry, Palisa. Delicious.
Chef, you've promised us all types of pastries. Now it's time to dive into the phyllo.
Absolutely is indeed. And let's put lots of beautiful thin pastry layers together.
I'm looking forward to it. Welcome back to the show. Poached pears is an iconic winter dessert. It's one of those desserts that will just have you begging for more, especially when it's served with that Clover Bliss chocolate medium cream dairy dessert. Dumi, you have got me ticking all the boxes when it comes to this dessert.
Yes, Palisa, and I just want to finish off these ones that we've made because this is exactly what we're making today. We're making these poached pears and we're going to be topping it with our beautiful, decadent, delicious Clover Bliss, Palisa. As you can see it pouring onto that. The flavors of the pear and the phyllo pastry and that decadence of the Clover Bliss on top is just everything you need.
The classic flavour, chocolate and pears. Oh my goodness, you just cannot beat it. I mean, just about chocolate and anything almost, you know, there's a great combination, but that really is a true classic food combination that just works so well. So you've got that voluptuous note coming from the bliss. Oh, I mean, it's definitely a match made in heaven there, absolutely. So I'm going to be working on the phyllo. Now, what's really important with the phyllo, it's all about the layers. So if you have a look here, you can just see it's layer after layer after layer. It is very important to actually keep it covered with a damp cloth at all times. It will dry out in an instant and become very, very brittle as well. So what we're going to need to do is we actually need to cut lots of sort of squares or rectangles, should I actually say, not squares, rectangles of pastry. So just opening up your phyllo that you've got. If it tears, it's not the end of the world.
I was going to say,
okay.
because then that's
don't worry about that. That's okay. So all you need to do is take in a sharp knife and just running it all the way through your pastry like that. And then another layer like this.
Does the thickness matter as to how many layers of phyllo you've got?
We're going to be actually separating everything just now, so don't worry about how many numbers of layers you've got at the moment. We're going to be layering it up as we go. So taking that like that, and then you can put those on top like that, and on top like that, and on top like that. Okay. And then we'll probably go that into 3 here. So cutting across there, and cutting across there. All right, so we've got everything all cut, and again, preparation is all key. That.
Cover again.
Cover again. Keep it covered as you go. So what you're going to do is just have a little sort of point where you can fold back and take 2 or 3 layers to start with, and then take in your first layer, melted butter. And what you're going to do is just brush that layer. Don't get too crazy now and start painting the whole kitchen surface and, having a complete field day. Try and sort of brush within the lines. It sort of makes your life a little bit easier.
Again, cleaning up, we have to keep our job as easy as possible.
And then what you're going to do is take in your next sheet of pastry, and you can just, don't put it straight on top of each other, just offset it.
Okay.
All right? So you're going to get this wonderful sort of, little flowery kind of pattern on top there.
And then you keep just creating that jigsaw kind of pattern of putting each layer of phyllo.
Absolutely. So you want to sort of maybe go 4 or 5 layers and see how you go. And then taking that very carefully and then pop that into your muffin tin. And again, just prime it up, the size like that. And then just, again, from the center, pushing out into there, nipping everything together, push it out just like that, and then you can start sort of opening up. So if you have a look at the ones we've got, you can see it sort of all sort of cascading over the sides ever so slightly. And again, remember, put that pear in just now that Tumi's preparing, so that's going to sit in there. That's going to really push everything into there.
Bali, you've got the liquid that we're going to be poaching our pears in. Luckily, I've got some softer pears, so it doesn't need to be poached for too long. You've got over there some white wine, we've got some honey, we've got some sugar, vanilla essence, and some cloves for the additional flavor. And so you can pass that over to me, and then I'm going to start poaching these pears.
Here we go, Chef. Can you hand this over to Dumi? I've handed it over with the pin, Dumi, just so that you can mix in those ingredients. Right now, I have put in all of the ingredients for the sauce, but it's quite stiff. That honey is keeping it very, very, very sturdily together. So it's very, very important that when it's on that heat, that honey will slowly dissolve, and that's what Dumi is now mixing it all in.
Correct. And then, Palisa, we're also going to be, as we're cooking the pears, they're also going to release some of their own juices, so you shouldn't have to worry about it burning up or anything like that, because it's going to release its own juices, cook up nicely, get nice and soft. And remember, if it doesn't cook all the way through, it's still going to go into the oven to bake. So unless you want your pears very firm, then you can literally put it into the oven as is. But I'd suggest that you poach them just a little bit so that they at least absorb some of the flavor of whatever we're flavoring it with.
Yeah, I think that softness you
Yeah.
sort of break into, because it also adds another texture. Talking about the texture of the pastry,
Yeah.
and then you've got you've got the bliss that goes with it, and then you've got that pear as well. So yeah, I think a little softer is better than something that's too firm.
Right now, Palisa, like I mentioned, remember that these pears are quite soft. I mentioned I don't want to poach them too long because they're still going to bake. We don't want it to fall apart in the oven. So it is almost ready for us to put them in there. So we're going to put them on the inside, let them bake. I'm going to drizzle just a little bit of this liquid that we're having here, because what also happens is that it gets reduced as well, and it's going to reduce even more in the oven, giving that nice syrupy texture once it's in the oven.
Well, that is double indulgence at its best. To get this recipe, head over to afternoonexpress.co.za.
Made with love by Clover.
Chef, it has been an absolutely amazing week with you here on Afternoon Express, but now it's time for us to kick back, sit down and relax with you and enjoy the beautiful pies that we've created throughout the show. Now, touching back to your cookbook, you are giving it away, so can I kind of encourage you to sign it?
Absolutely.
Before
I
we
will
leave?
gladly sign it, and when that goes to a winner, they're going to have an absolute great time in the kitchen with gaining lots and lots of confidence.
Well, we're going to get that message from Chef Tjaart when we come back. Welcome back to our Afternoon Express Thursday cook-along. Now, we've reached my favorite part of the show, where we get to indulge in all of the wonderful food that was made. And we also don't want our viewers to forget that we're also giving you a chance to walk away with Chef Tjaart's Summer Food Cookbook. Now, let's get eating, Chef.
Oh, I cannot wait.
Now, Chef, essentially what happens to me sometimes when my tongue gets tied like that, it's just the excitement. I'm excited to try all the incredible, delicious pies that you've created today. And if you just want to give us a quick recap of what we made made?
Well, I think what we kicked off with is our wonderful Pilchard pie, and we've got that lovely sort of salsa, I guess, on the side of that. And then straight in front of me here, you've got that curry mince that we made as well with that hot watercress pastry. So that's been knocked up. Then we went on to the lovely apple tart, apple pie with that lattice work that we created. And then finally finished off with pears and chocolate. I mean, what a combination in phyllo pastry. So you can just see how versatile pastry really is at the end of the day. Anyway, I'm going to steal one of these.
I've given myself a little bit of everything, but Chef, if I can just pass you my plate, because I definitely want some hot, sweet chili Pilchard's pie. It's got basically the ingredients that I have fallen in love with over the years. And that brings me to asking you, Chef, when it comes to this cookbook, what have some of the highlights and the highlight recipes been within it?
Always lots of recipes. I mean, recipes that go down to my sort of... childhood, or my last sort of supper or meal, I guess. I mean, things like a good old roast chicken, and yes, it can be boring, but there's so many ways to sort of, jazz it up. And then you go on to sort of things a little bit more, complicated, a little bit more sort of finesse that you need, like a beautiful cheese souffle, which is great in the winter, I might add. And then you go on to, your sweet, decadent desserts. I mean, there's lemon tart, there's chocolate tarts in there as well. There's beautiful berry terrines. There's things that scream summer. There's so many things that you can serve up in the winter and enjoy. Remember, you don't want sort of a hot starter, hot main meal and a hot dessert, so play around with it and get creative. So those are some of my sort of little highlights in there that I'd love to share with everybody.
Which brings us, Dumi, to our social media question, and essentially the mechanism as to how you can be entered to walk away with your very own Chef Tjaart's summer cookbook. All you have to do is head over to our competition post on our social media pages and tell us, if it were a hot summer's day, what would be your go-to dish? Now, Chef, you did promise to give a very personalized message within that cookbook. Are you ready? Have you thought of something to say?
Oh, yes. Let me write a little something for that viewer that's going to win this exact copy, I might add, as well. So, anyway.
Whilst you're thinking, Chef, Dumi.
Yes, darling.
What are you loving the most about this dish?
Palisa, I'm loving absolutely everything over here. I think more than anything, I started with dessert. I started with a bite of that apple pie, and it is beautiful just how the flavors work so well together with the custard, Palisa. So mellow, yes, I know most people would want to have it in winter, but it also, for me, could be a summer dessert, because dessert is for every day of the year.
Now, I cannot let you go, Chef Tjaart, without having to give some of your highlights. You've been with us the entire week, and we've learned almost every type of pastry.
It's wonderful to be back in the, Afternoon Express studio, well, for the first time after all the years it's been going, and, with all the other sister shows and everything. So it's been great. It's been lovely to meet both of you. And your wealth of knowledge in the kitchen, I must say, really is quite impressive, and it's lovely to, work with people who are so keen and so eager to learn. And that's what it's about. It's, it's sharing. I learn things as we go. So, don't get me wrong, there's always something I learn in the world of TV, but also in the world of the kitchen as well.
Oh, well, thank you both, my chefs in the kitchen, helping me debunk all things pies. Now, we hope that this week has shown you that life is what you bake of it. Now, if you'd like to keep your eyes on the pies, just go over any steps that you might have missed throughout the week, then be sure to catch our Saturday repeats at 8:30 a.m. Join us for another culinary exploration next Tuesday and Thursday at 5:30 p.m. But until then, Mzansi, good night, stay safe and happy eating. Goodbye. Here's to family favorites and recipes passed from mothers to daughters. Made with love by Clover.
Another feel-good production.